Welcome back. Two familiar faces, at least two New Yorkers, are vying for the seat of, guess what, New York City mayor.
Current Mayor Bill de Blasio will leave his seat after serving 2 terms as mayor. After barely registering on any national polls in his presidential bid, de Blasio has recently submitted paperwork to run for governor.
Democratic candidate Eric Adams is facing off against Republican Curtis Sliwa. Adams is the Brooklyn borough president and a former New York City Police Department captain.
Sliwa is founder of the Guardian Angels, a nonprofit focused on crime prevention. Polls close at 9 p.m. Eastern. For more on this, I want to bring in Marcia Kramer. She's a political reporter at our CBS station in New York City, WCBS. She's joining us from Eric Adams' campaign headquarters in downtown Brooklyn. Marcia, thanks so much for joining us on this busy night. So what is the message that Eric Adams used to prevail in what was a really crowded field?
Well, the thing that helped Eric Adams in a crowded field of 8 candidates was that he ran as a moderate, and then there was most of the people in the race were very progressive or to the left. And he tried to tell New Yorkers that he was going to court business, bring back safety, all kinds of things that the people who were running more to the left of him were not talking about. He talked about public safety. He talked about using his skills as a police officer to make the streets safe. And I think the big thing was that he wanted to paint himself as the new face of the Democratic Party. And the interesting thing was that he apparently was right, that his approach in terms of being a moderate, a middle-of-the-road man, was something that actually appealed to a lot of New Yorkers, and that's a big reason why he won.
Marcia, it's sometimes an occupational hazard of those of us who cover national politics to think someone who's running locally might be talking to them on a national stage. But it feels to me like Adams is trying to have a conversation not only with New Yorkers, but the Democratic Party writ large on some of the issues you just identified. Yes, you can do things on criminal justice, but you also have to be tough on crime. You have to have some orientation to business. Is that true? Am I reading too much into it?
No, I think that the bottom line is that he was talking both to people in Washington, where Democrats seem to be eating themselves alive, and also to a national stage, but also to New Yorkers, trying to tell them that he's going to be a man with sanity, that he wants to come up with policies that are going to bring back the economy, which is very important, bring back tourism, which is a major part of New York City's economy. And to do that, he had to focus on safety. And to convince tourists to come back, he has to focus on safety. To convince business to come back, he has to do the same thing. So he talked about his skills as a police officer, talking about the need to do things that may have not been popular when they did the defund the police movement, things like bringing back the plainclothes cops, people who will go undercover to find guns and get them off the street. But he also seems to not support some of the other reforms of the defund the cops movement. And I think that was a big thing because people want to be safe no matter what community they live in. And they think that he was the best person to do that.
Well, Marcia, the mayor of New York's most populous city often has a good working relationship with the state's governor, but that's not been the case these past 4 years. Does that seem to be on the verge of changing?
I'm sorry, I'm having some audio trouble. Tell me again.
No, that's okay. You know, when it comes to the relationship between the mayor of New York's most populous city and the governor of the state of New York, it has been in the past a good relationship, although just not in the recent history here in the last 4 years. But what does it look like now? Does that seem as though that's on the verge of changing?
Well, look. It's no secret that Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio were like oil and water, and that the governor of New York at the time felt that it was sort of blood sport to pick on the mayor of the city of New York. But I can tell you something. I have been covering politics for a very long time, and there are always tensions in relationships between mayors and governors because they're fishing in the same pond. They're looking in the same media market. But right now we have an accidental governor, Kathy Hochul, who wants to differentiate herself from Andrew Cuomo, so she wants to get along with whoever the mayor is. And she's made a point of not only trying to get along with this mayor, but politicians in New York in general, because she's trying to basically tell people she's the un-Cuomo. But what happens later down the road, as there are very big issues that they have to deal with, there's bound to be clashes because they have different issues, different constituencies. So it remains to be seen. Remember this, Kathy Hochul is running for re-election. She's going to have to face a primary in just a few months. So she's going to have to try to get along with the mayor of New York because she doesn't need that as a diversion while she has all these people in a primary that she has to pick off.
Harmony in politics, it can be opportunistic. Who knew? WCBS Chief Political Correspondent Marcia Kramer, we thank you so very much.